All right, guys. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. First Toon Tactics TV, and what a show we've got on for you guys tonight. We've got Vator from Man City. We've got Witness Surfer from Chelsea, and what a time to come on. We've obviously heard the news on Guehi, coming to Newcastle. That deal coming closer. We've got a whole load of other transfer news. But what do our rivals think? What do our rivals think of Newcastle United going forward, and where are they? Where are they in terms of their squad building incoming for the season? Let's find out today on the first live show of Toon Tactics TV. All right, folks, thank you for joining me. And I'm very, very blessed. As I mentioned in the intro, I've got Vator Games from Man City to come on, and I've got Witness Surfer from Chelsea coming to rep on. I want to big them up before I bring them on, just to say that these guys from the outset of when I started streaming, YouTubing, content creating, and not knowing what I'm doing, not knowing for my left or right, and these guys came in big time for me on the various projects that I've done. Have always been supportive in various ways. So it's a real privilege for me not just to have guys that are incredible content creators, streamers, and in their own right, but also folks that have really helped me. So let me bring them on. Vator, Winter Surfer, great to have you on, gentlemen. How are you?
Hey, I'm gonna speak for me. I won't speak for Surfer, but I'm feeling good. Summertime, transfer window. I mean, we still got some time in it. Got about a month to go, but I'm feeling all right so far.
Good. Oh, it's a real pleasure. Winter Surfer, how about you, sir? How are you doing?
Yeah, I've sort of taken a break from football, watched the Olympics, enjoyed that. So, I've been, just taking my own little pre-season break, from football itself. And then Monday afternoon, night, the Chelsea timelines exploded. So, it's like, or yesterday exploded, it's continued today. So, it's all good. Or actually, the whole goddamn transfer window's exploded today. So, it's like,
it has indeed. It feels
like
like
to suddenly realise there's like only 2 weeks left to the season starts, and they must get players in. So,
Yeah,
good planning, guys. Good planning.
Everything's got. Well, I'm sure the Chelsea owners will probably say everything is going to plan. Like this is all part of the big plan.
Yeah, part of their plan, Machiavellian.
4D chess, right? 4D chess.
Yeah.
Well, as you guys have come on, it's so interesting because and for the folks that are coming in, thank you all again for joining in. Again, it's our first live stream, Toon Talk. My first comment on the chat. Thank you for coming. Thank you for supporting. Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. It's already kind of really encouraging to have messages and people coming in already. So we're going to break down the show. Obviously, we're very blessed to have Man City reps here. We've got Chelsea reps. I'm hoping to get their perspective on what's happening with their team, with their squads, with their transfer window, what's their perception of how their season's going, but also from the outside looking in, how they view Newcastle United. Because me as a fan, I've got an extremely biased view, and I'm so in terms of Newcastle United. So I'm hoping for some objectivity. And so the show is broken down in a couple parts. We're looking into 3 parts into like. We're going to look at the squad's strengths and weaknesses. We're going to look into some predictions, and we're going to look into our owners as well. All of our clubs have very unique owners, non-controversial at all in terms of that. But I'm really keen to learn about what their perception and how things are going with their owners as well. And speaking of news, guys, I don't know if you saw Mark Guehi, and I'm probably going to go to Andrew first to Winter Surfer with this first about Mark Guehi, because I don't know if you've noticed, but the former Chelsea Academy players are making up the Newcastle United backline. We've got Tino Livramento already. We've got Lewis Hall. And now we've got the potential, real strong potential, probably 70-80% complete at this stage, I would guess. In Mark Guehi, news have come in this again from Luke Edwards at a Telegraph that the deal itself, which is reported to be around £60 million, is looking likely to be finalized in the next few days. What's your thoughts on it, Andrew? Like, you know Mark Guehi better than I do, and from a Chelsea fan perspective, what can you say what Newcastle fans have got to look forward to?
Well, we didn't really do. We sent him out loan a bunch of time. I mean, he didn't really approach the first team squad, but we sold him for about 25 million and he hasn't played anything to Palace. He's obviously done very well at Palace. Good partnership with Anderson. Had a good Euros. So yeah, he's. I'm very surprised Palace, after losing Elise, potentially Eze. Maybe this is their way of keeping Eze, that they've had to sacrifice Guehi and all forward.
Yeah.
So very good defender. Did very well at the Euros. 60 million. So yeah, I mean, Newcastle United defensive wise, it's a very good signing. With I think Botman's out, right?
ACL.
Did Sheikh pick up an injury during the Euros, or is he okay? I can't remember.
He's okay. He's just old.
Depth. Otherwise,
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't really know your central defenders apart from Sheikh and Botman. Lascelles is out, I think, long term as well. So
yeah, he's got the ACL as well.
But yeah, it's a very good signing. I think Newcastle fans will want to now see probably what you're going to do in attack in terms of your signings. I think that needs a bit refreshing, especially the right hand side with Almiron. Is he staying? Is he going? Or just an improvement on Almiron? But Guehi's a good signing. I'm surprised. I know he's linked to Liverpool and stuff like that, and I think we're going to bag about 15 million from this anyway, because we've got 20% or something sale on, or just over 20% sale on thing. And surprised no one else came in. I really thought maybe Liverpool could have come in, beefing up, because I know everyone's high on Kwanzaa over there, but Konate's injured all the time, and is it Matip that's left? Maybe even I thought maybe Manchester United might come and sneak in a last minute or something, because the Lit deal doesn't seem to be going anywhere at this time. Do you know what I mean? So this is a very good that's a very good signing. I'm just very surprised Palace let him go. I mean there's no buyout, buyout clause with Eze and Elise. So it's a straight up 60 mil. So no, it's a very good signing. Just now, hopefully you'll what you're going to do in attack. That's all.
No, that's exactly. I think there was a report from Luke Edwards and Telegraph to say that it was Mark Guehi that was even pushing through for the deal, which is positive. And so that's good. I'm thinking maybe from a Liverpool's perspective that, like you said, they've got Konate and obviously Van Dijk, and they've got Kwanzaa. And so Mark Guehi would make up a four. You his backup, but he'll be adding depth, competition. And are Liverpool the type to pay £60 million for?
No, not for a backup. I mean, if he's joining Newcastle 60 million, I'm pretty sure he's starting every game.
No, yeah, exactly. I think if you're looking at, especially in the future, it'll be a Botman Guehi partnership with Livramento at right back, Lewis Hall at left back. So yeah, it's looking interesting. What's your thoughts on it, Vator, in terms of when you're hearing what Newcastle are doing? Is it springing up any past memories of when Manchester City was first building themselves up and raising the floor?
Yeah, you know what? And hopefully everything's clean on my microphone. But
clean.
I like the movement that I've been able to see, and unfortunately, you guys are Newcastle, and the come up has had to be this strategic and this patient because of FFP and everything that's been in place. But again, there's no rash decisions that I've seen over at Newcastle. There hasn't been any reactionary. So with how you guys are doing your signings, and even with how you've allowed or let some players go, it seems very calculated. So there's no hating on this end. And honestly, anything that you guys do to chip away at the Chelseas, at the Arsenals, at the Uniteds, at the clubs just to strengthen, I think that's better for the league overall. I've been saying this for a really long time. The more competition, the better. There's a reason why, again, you hear my accent. There's a reason why a lot of North Americans enjoy the Prem. It's because of that competition. It's because of, you know, the differences between sometimes first through 7, right? Like there's the point gap isn't necessarily all that crazy at times. So I like what I'm seeing from Newcastle, and as long as it's not jeopardizing Manchester City, go ahead, do your thing.
We're good to go. We're good to go.
Yeah,
Got a comment here from Toon Talk to say that Guehi is actually good mates with Anthony Gordon. I think when they were away on international duty, I think they formed a really good friendship, which is interesting to see. And it's interesting that Guehi, if it's true that he pushed through the move, I wonder what conversations he must have had with Anthony. And obviously with Anthony, there's a little bit of controversy there around Liverpool, Newcastle, that we asking to move, which we'll touch on in a moment as we discuss. So really interesting stuff. There's other transfer news that are relating to Man City and Chelsea and kind of interconnected in some way as well, that I'm going to touch on a little bit in a moment. I'm going to kick things off with, I wanted to let me see. Can you guys see that? This is I wanted to touch on our owners. I wanted to, you know, I'm a big believer in everything rises and falls on leadership, and so I thought let me just start off right at the top in terms of where things are going. And I thought, what better clubs to learn from, especially with Man City and Chelsea. I've got obviously the Chelsea owners here, Ted Bowley and Behdad Eghbali, and Andrew, you can set me straight on who actually how that actually breaks down in terms of the ownership of Chelsea. I know that Ted Bowley's the chairman, and Eghbali is part of the group that heads Clear Lake, and obviously Clear Lake own Chelsea as well. And what's it like been having them so far? I mean, I can kind of guess from the outside looking in the various content and watching Chelsea fans talk about Chelsea, and just looking at the transfer philosophy, how they are, everything from the recruitment, from the managers themselves. Is there a way you would summarize what it's been like having Ted Bowley and Behdad and that group at Chelsea at the moment?
It's been a mixture of fortunes, to say the least. I've liked some of the things they've done. I haven't liked some of the things they've done. I think what boils down to me is their mixed messaging of what they say they want to do and then what they do. You know, I think they need to get a handle on that. Eghbali is sort of Clear Lake's rep, so they're the majority holders, and Todd Bowley's there. He's got a stake in there, but he's more the face side, and he gets blamed for everything. Well, it's a big bulk of like Clear Lake stuff, but no, I think what they've done is they've tried to do an Arsenal thing, but very rapid in terms of flipping the whole squad or majority of the squad, and then ramming they've tried to do essentially like an old school like NFL off season thing where you get rid of or on the off season where you like cut like about 20 players in the summer and then you get your final squad, or stuff like in the NBA when you like keep only 4 stars and get rid of like 8 or something like that. The philosophy changed from when they first came in the summer of 22 when they bought more established stars like a Sterling, a Koulibaly, Cucurella, etc. And it changed when the directors came in and they went to a more youth centric model. Some of the signings I think have worked, some of the signings haven't, but that's just modern day football. The hiring of Poch in the end turned out to be a false dawn in terms of, I think, for me, I've always said he's the worst Chelsea manager for my expectations that he performed. But then I don't know how, but like this, when they signed Maresca and gave him a 5-year contract, I don't know how they can say in their own press, they can go, I want a top four finish and a trophy, and then you sign Maresca. I just don't know how that works. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, why would you do that? Why don't you just go, well, you actually know what? I need to just be honest with fans. You know what? We thought Poch would work. It was our mistake. We want to get a guy in, settled him. We're going to back him no matter what. We're going to go through, if it's tough times and bad times, we will back him. But yeah, I mean, like some of the signings, obviously, Cole Palmer's a major surprise to everyone.
Yeah.
And the way he actually attacked last season, the way he actually, settled in right away, and been like he's been playing for us for years.
Yeah.
This summer, it's just been a bit weird. Just some of the messaging. That's all. It's, we're not going to pay these players certain wages, but we're trying to sign Osimhen. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, why did you brief your own press that you've got a wage structure, but then you know that Osimhen's going to want more than that? Do you know what I mean? Even if you put incentives in, it's just it's just fine. And that was the beauty of Roman, really, in terms of not only that, but you never heard of him. You never heard. I don't remember it. He gave like one interview during his 20 years here. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But listen, I think the problem with Chelsea fans in general is that we seem to stumble on the reliance on Cobham. There's a lot of revisionist in my fan base. Like, we were always the team that bought through youth, and that's just was never the case. I think we've been one of the best. Well, I think we bought so much youth through in the last 5 years. It's unnatural for a top side to do that.
Right.
I always say to people, name me the youth team players that were in Liverpool's first team squad between Steven Gerrard and Trent Alexander-Arnold. There was none. Even City, to a certain extent, it's really only been Phil Foden in the last 4 or 5 years. I know Rico Lewis is getting some action and stuff like that, but it's only been really Phil Foden if you think about it. Even Manchester United, that whole that it was a very dry spell before Marcus Rashford popped up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Arsenal, Saka, and Spurs is what? Kane. That's it. Do you know what I mean? Look at it doesn't really happen. Look at the top sides. Real Madrid, they don't bring really. Barcelona do to a certain extent. Bayern Munich don't, because they've got the whole Bundesliga as their youth product, so they can just they just buy anyone. But this season is the one where I'm like, you're never going to hear me say Maresca out. Yeah. This season, because they gave him a 5-year contract. I wanted the directors gone with Poch. It wasn't just Poch I wanted fired. I wanted the directors to go. There's no point in me saying the owners out because they're billionaires. It's like, they probably get weekly threats of violence and bribery and kidnap stuff every week or every month. Do you know what I mean? It's not. Yeah. You know what I mean? These guys deal with the Saudis on a regular basis. Do you know what I mean? They're fearless. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? What is like 200 people in West London going to do? You know what I mean? I always say to people, if you want, everyone goes, oh yeah, you watch, then we're going to protest. You didn't do it. Or if you're going to protest, what's more than a protest? Why don't you walk out on a live game? You know what I mean? Yeah. That'd be more embarrassing to them. Or why instead of paying for banners for players that aren't worth it, why don't you have banners that have like real messages? Don't have to be rude language or stuff like that. just a message, you know what I mean? Or those little flyers, do you know what I mean? Or something like that. But no, they have made mistakes. I don't believe they paid $4.5 billion for this club, right? I don't believe they're here to not make money. Do you know what I mean? What would be the point? Do you know what I mean? They're American businessmen. I mean, they're here to make money. Do you know what I mean? They can't sell it for like 8 more years or something like that. So why would this whole conspiracy theory that some of my fans go, yeah, they're here to run it into the ground? It's like, well, first of all, they don't even own the ground or the pitch. That's owned by the Chelsea. That's owned by the Chelsea Supporters Trust. They can't even. That's the problem. They can't even move or build properly because it's Ken Bates sold it like 20 years ago to save the club, or 30 years ago. Sorry. So, but they need to. I fear they are banking on like these like South American kids that they've signed to show up and turn good next year. Like Esteban Willian and Kendry Pires and stuff like that. And it's like, that's great, but why don't we set up the team right now so when those youngsters come in, it's easier for them to settle? Do you know what I mean? I don't want it to be like a Cole Palmer situation where everything's thrown at him. Do you know what I mean? It's just not fair. Do you know what I mean? So, listen, I'll like I said, it's my focus is on them, on the directors this season. It's not on Maresca whatsoever. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
You know, I'll critique him. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's fair. I think it's fair to critique managers or coaches this season, but you know, I think they said this was they had a 4-window plan or something like this. So this is the last window.
Well, what are you going to critique him to? Are you going to critique him to?
Oh no, just generally, just general. You know, like I would do any head coach. You know, if it's like just
but you won't hold them to the standards of your previous managers.
Well, no, because there's a cap. There's a cap on what my team. I said there was 3 things that I put a cap on my team this season. That was the goalkeeper position, the striker position, and the coach. Because I don't know what to expect of the coach. Because everyone went to me, oh yeah, why don't you take a look at what he did at Leicester? And I was like, but they were in the Championship. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why? That league's the most physically demanding league in the world. Do you know what I mean? I'm not. Of course, it's going to be different there. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know what he's going to do here because you know I've not watched much of preseason, but everyone now goes mad over preseason. Have you noticed this year especially? Everyone's like, it's mental. It's just, never heard people like. It's like, oh yeah, but he did this, he did that, and I said, okay, so he's experimenting, so he's using preseason what he should do. He's experimenting, right?
Right.
No, that's fine.
Right.
I don't mind that. It's like it's all good, you know. But I think it's fair to say, you know, I'm not going to be like overboard because I literally don't know what to expect of him. So people are like, oh, you should be going for top 4 and something like that. I said, well. Do you think we should be finishing top 4? Because I like the way others go, yeah, you should definitely finish top 4. And then you go to them, yeah, but do you rate Maresca? And they go, well, I don't know.
Yeah. You don't know yet. Yeah, you don't know yet.
So it's like, well, okay, man. So I told you I don't know, but you expect me to say top 4. I ask you, you say don't know, you go, yeah, top 4. But it's one of the things. Back to the owners, you know, they need to do a lot. I still think the directors should go. I don't think they're good enough in terms of like. I just don't think they have gravitas. Do you know what I mean? I think Newcastle did a brilliant job hiring Paul Mitchell. He was on the market for ages. He's a name. You know what I mean? It's like that. The guys who run City, the Barcelona guys, gravitas. Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. I would have, you know. I would have done something like that. You know, I would have like paid a lot of money to get those guys out of the contracts, or someone like, or hire a Paul Mitchell, or just someone like that. It's got a bit of a name recognition around the world, or even what's his name, Campos from PSG. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. Yeah. Just have someone just there, or if you want to keep directors, I have no problem. Then bring someone above them, who's their boss. Do you know what I mean? He's got the name who can because I just don't think they're good. I don't think in the long term. I think they're good at selling like that. But you know, in the past we've overpaid for a lot of players. So you know,
I was going to ask one more question on Chelsea, and I wanted to bring Vator in on this. And there's an assumption within my question, and that is it's touching on what you said about messaging, and it's to say, is it better to almost tell the truth in a sense of Chelsea buy a lot of youngsters, for instance, but I get the overwhelming sense that not all the youngsters here are supposed to. Well, if they do break through and they're amazing, fantastic. They'll be in our first team. We're going to improve. But the other option and very viable pathway is that we're just going to sell them on. Like I've mentioned, 3 of Chelsea's former academy players form Newcastle's backline. I think that if you add up the cost together, it's going to be about just over 100 million in that, for instance. And the problem is that I feel like when Chelsea do buy these youngsters a lot from, you know, unknown 16, 17, 18-year-olds from Brazil, for instance, they kind of put as the next best thing for Chelsea, where the truth is that they could be the next best thing for somebody else, except for we're just growing and maturing them and we're just sending them on. I don't know what you guys think of that.
The thing is now is, and City have done it a lot this season. The most signings City have done this season have been like academy players in the summer, because what's happened with the loan, with them restricting the loan moves, of like only limiting the especially international loans, so like to about 8 or something like that, with the PSR and FFP stupid rules and stuff like that. That's what clubs are doing now. They are stockpiling youngsters, whether they'll ever play for them or not. But if any report comes out of a youngster doing well, then someone's going to pay like 10, 15 million pounds to them right away. Do you know what I mean? It's just we've seen it. I think they're looking at someone like Paez and Esteban to go in. But I don't know this one we've just signed. Is it Gabriel Merck? I don't know. It's just I honestly don't know. But we're seeing it now. How many young players have been? This summer's market must be the most in Premier League history that we've seen the young players signed.
Yeah,
all clubs.
Yeah,
look, Liverpool signed a youngster from us. Do you know what I mean? A 15, 16-year-old from us.
So to speak on it, and again, the Chelsea, I can't say that it's innovative, but it's aggressive, right? Yeah. We've seen Chelsea go after, academy players or very youthful, unproven talent. We've seen this before, but they're kind of doing it at another level. It's extremely aggressive, and the plan makes sense if you just think that every young player naturally will get better. Like if you just have that general assumption, if I get them early, they're going to mature, they're going to become more experienced, they're going to become stronger, they're going to know by nature of that, then someone's going to come for them. And also, the reason why I think it makes a lot of sense, but they're just doing it at such an extreme level is if they continue to keep quality in their first squad, they're going to have to get shipped out. Like you can only have so many that can play for you, and you can only have so many that can maybe supplant someone that's already been a starter. So I'm kind of seeing that over here at Manchester City, not to the same degree, but academy players that are having their success. And when they first came to the academy and they had so much promise, the aspiration, right? The hope is that they can become a first team player. But when you look position by position, you're like, well, am I going to get into the midfield when it already has a Silva, Foden, and Rodri? Probably not. Am I going to get into the striker or forward position when the quality's there? I think Chelsea's seeing if we have it, great. We have kind of first right of refusal. If we want to keep them, good. If we don't, someone's going to come. Someone's going to sign them for a little more or a lot more than what we got them for, and it's going to be that business model. So I don't hate on it at all, and I think it's something that just needs. I think they're going to continue to refine it. We have all looked at Chelsea and be like, "Wow, we've never seen it like this." But I think
everyone's doing it.
Yeah, they're going to scale it back, and it's just going to be really, really refined. So
if you think of it, it's very weird. It's like the actual spending that we're doing because of how old the players are. It doesn't actually go towards your FFP. So it doesn't actually go because there's an age limit. So they're below that age limit. So I think is it 18? It might be. I can't remember. I think if they're below 18, it doesn't actually go to FFP. But it's weird because if you can sell them, that would go towards helping you. It's just weird. I mean, we signed an Argentina defender as well from Boca Juniors. Don't ask me. Don't tell. No, I don't know what his name is. So I mean, we just signed him.
I don't know how you keep
he's on loan. He's on loan for a year or stuff like that. But we're seeing armies like if their quality. It's not even now that they'll go into the national teams. Look at Lamine Yamal. I mean, he's obviously joined. He's obviously in the Barca first team, but we're seeing it now that the careers are beginning at a very young age now. They're beginning 16, 17 years old. There's none of this. Oh, wait till they get to 20, 21, and then they'll boom. No, they're getting to like 16, 17, and they're like, we've got to stick them in the first team.
Right.
Look at Endrick. Look at Endrick with look how much stick Endrick is getting already. He's only played like 2 games for Real Madrid, and he hasn't scored something in pre-season friendlies. Do you know what I mean? That was funny as well. That when you always hear when you sign a Brazilian or Argentinian, the next Messi or Neymar. We signed William Esteban on the reports. I was reading and saying, he's the next Endrick, and I was like, how is that possible? Endrick's only just gone. How is
even Endrick? What does it mean exactly? What does it mean to be the next Endrick?
Next Endrick? What? I don't even know what this. I don't even know what the first Endrick is. Exactly. I don't know. He's the next Endrick.
we'll speak.
You know, even look at the PSR mini transfer window. Your Newcastle, Villa, Chelsea, and others.
Yeah.
I mean, you sold a guy to Forest. I didn't even heard of him for 35 million or something like that. And then you sold another like Laminta guy to Brighton for 30 million and stuff like that. But Minter had a good like season. I think was it PSV or something like that. Or something?
He won the cup at PSV, and Elliot Anderson's played about 50 games for us, including.
What we're saying is it's like they're not household names, but people are dropping 35 million pounds. I mean, Forest. I don't get Forest. They're in trouble all season, and they dropped 35 million on a I don't know, the fourth or fifth choice Newcastle midfielder or something like that.
I'm wondering if they sell Morgan Gibbs-White a little bit, owner. But I wanted to. Sorry, I was just going to say in terms of there's just one comment here for around exactly what you're saying, Andrew, around from Register Kevon. I think that speaking of Chelsea, I think they're going for profit for a lot of these players. I think they need some success in the pitch though to make it work, and I think
it helps.
Regular. Exactly, especially Champions League. I think you have to qualify for Champions League to actually make a lot of this work. But I guess speaking of owners and philosophies, Vator, I mean, in my mind, the Man City owners stand out like a sore thumb in terms of what it is to be successful owners and everything else on top of it. I mean, we're going to speak about squads in a few minutes or whatnot. But when I was putting together, obviously, I asked you for a 25-man squad, and I was putting the list up. And especially when you're doing these things, you're putting the list, you're putting the names in the various places. And I just kept thinking quality. And there's players I couldn't even fit in that are not even on the bench. And I'm like, you've got surplus to requirements. And some of these guys would be my first team without a question. I mean, what's your overall thoughts on your owners and I guess their leadership and their influence on the Man City team, and how this is reflected on your recruitment and where the team is at right now, where Man City are right now as a club?
Listen. Any Manchester City fan that is not so appreciative, so grateful, and at the same time lucky to be able to get the ownerships in terms of what's come with regards to Sheikh Mansour. Like, it's just when you think of a foundation, when you think of a philosophy, when you think of even just with regards to standards, right? That's what's been so consistent with their arrival. It's been we've got a vision, we've got a standard that we want to bring the club to, that we want to bring the club to return to after many years of not performing the way the club had intended or originated. And I think it's maybe another 5. I think if they remain owners for another 5 years, I think that's the longest stint. That's 20 plus years of ownership. That's been the longest throughout the many different ownerships throughout the existence of Manchester City, if I'm correct. So when you think of that, and when you think of like kind of like the disarray or some of the fumble moments within a club, it really falls down to who's ownership, who's leading the ship at the time. And I think from day one, I can't say that they got everything right, but from day one, you can tell that their intentions was, we want this to be successful. We want to be of impact. We want to be of something long lasting. So I've seen, and let me actually put this on screen. This behind me is not possible without an ownership and the vision. And I'm gonna speak to it because it might show up small, but Manchester City are the first side in the entire history of English top flight football to have won 4 in a row. And when you think of 100+ years of this being in existence, like, that's absolutely amazing. And it comes down to an ownership that wants that to be the goal, that wants every decision to be made with, you know what, of quality, of standard. And they've not only done that with regards to the club, and it's trickled down with regards to men's, women's academy, but they've actually done that within the community of Manchester. So there's a lot of things being said with what Ineos and what the United owners want to do with regards to surrounding areas, but where that's all kind of started, where it's all been seen and witnessed, and why it's something to like continue to make happen is because of what these owners did. Also, I think, and Surfer, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Tone, you can correct me if I'm wrong as well. But I know pretty much every Manchester City fan waits for the end of the year to hear what Khaldoon has to say. He does a sit-down interview every year, and he does a recap, and he also does a little bit of a projection moving forward. And I'm captivated. I'm like, okay, notifications on. I'm sitting down. I make sure I'm comfortable, and I'm trying to ingest as much as I can. I know rivals tune in and kind of because they use that as a little bit of a banter and back and forth when City kind of have their dip throughout the year or don't quite do what they're supposed to do. So everyone's tuned into that, but it speaks to that same quality and vision. And those two in particular, the way you use them to put them on screen is absolutely right. And I think this upcoming year to try and do something that is obviously impossible because the 4-peat was impossible until it was done.
Yeah.
This 5-peat is obviously something that's in vision and it's in the grasp. So it's just a matter of what can you do to still be of that quality and what can you do to also match maybe the strength or improvements that happen around you. Arsenal continue to show that they want to erase or they want to eliminate, they want to change the fact that they haven't won the Prem in 20 plus years, right? They're doing their best. They keep strengthening year after last year. They just set a record in terms of what they did in the transfer window. So when you have a title rival like that, you have to match. And when we talk later about players departing, that's where it gets a little antsy. That's where it gets a little nervous.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what the rivals are doing. You know how they're going to be strengthening. And then if you happen to lose quality, and we'll get into who might be leaving Manchester City, but it's like, are we going to keep doing it? At the end of the day, though, at the end of the day, long-term vision, long-term, will we remain there? When you got owners like this, that's where many fans are just like, okay, it may not be the best year, but we know that this vision is long-term for continued success. So, I can't say enough about them, and I can't say enough about I'm still due to make my trip across the pond and actually see everything that's happened from their arrival to what was there originally with regards to Main Road. So
let me know when you do. Let me know when you do.
Oh, we'll link up. Yeah, we'll 100%. Link up 100%. But it's like, and the beauty about the internet, the beauty about what we do in terms of content creation and the people that we interact with. You know, Manchester City fans that are over there, they've been blessed, lucky enough to actually be born in Manchester, or they attend games like that.
Yeah,
hearing from them and hearing how they've talked about things over the years and things in terms of recency, it's been amazing, and I want to witness it firsthand. And a large part of that is because of the ownership.
Brilliant. And I just got one comment here which I'll touch on before moving on to Newcastle a little bit. I won't spend too much time talking about our owners because I want to really get into those transfers. But there's one comment here and big up to all the guys that I've tuned in as well. It's really good to have all you folks, especially from our first live stream, commenting and just joining in. There's one here from Register Kev. I think this is on Man City. There is an asterisk though on City right now until the charges are cleared. I think before Vator.
Yeah, I'm cool with it.
Yeah,
I got this. I got to live this every day. So I understand that many are kind of holding, and I appreciate the comment in terms of they're holding judgment. They're saying there's an asterisk right now until things kind of cleared up, as opposed to some have already been like, nah, Silty are guilty. We don't need to hear anymore. But a lot's going to be decided in November, or a lot's going to be discussed, I should say, because that's when things kick off in terms of November. When the decision kind of comes through, who knows? But I understand that. I understand the questioning of Manchester City and what some want to say is financial doping and things of that nature. I get all that. I also just look at it from a players on the pitch standpoint. I look at it as the manager and the players, they have nothing to do with that. They have nothing to do with what was done behind the scenes, if anything was done behind the scenes. But man for man, squad for squad, manager versus next manager in tactics, I can look at it and have extreme pride in how the players and the club have performed versus the next player and club on the other side of the pitch.
I totally agree, and I think I was going to touch on a probably slightly different point with Man City. I thought I was going to go on a whole different tangent. I'll just say this: I do feel charges or no charges for me. Like when I look at Man City and everything that's going on, I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but sometimes I feel like when I hear some fans talking about Man City, and I guess I'm more thinking about Newcastle in the future, is that there's a sense of entitlement where there's only the first was the top 2, now it's the top 4 and top 6 who can win things and have legacies and dynasties. And you know, there's always a continuous comment of their history started 10 years ago. Well, no, it didn't. It started 100+ years ago. Or they've won the lottery. Well, if you go through the history of any club, they've all won the lottery in some way, shape, or form through the owners that they've had. And so I don't understand that. You
understand it. No, you understand it.
I'll understand it soon.
No, because again, these are I love the tribalism. I love the rivalry. I love the back and forth. A rival's not going to give an inch, right? They're not going to want to give up any type of ground that they already have. And the funny thing is, if you were to just look at, let's just look at the Premier League, right? The fact that it started in 1992. If you're just looking at the Premier League, and this is how it kind of played out. Let's say 20 years, no success for whichever club, 20 years, no success. Would you say that they have no history? Would you say that they have no relevancy? Would you say that they are not a club of importance? I mean, if you do, that's really ignorant, especially if someone happens to be an Arsenal fan. Because for the last 20 years, they haven't won the major. They haven't won the league. But a 20-year stint or a 30-year stint, which happened to be Manchester City, if you look at 30-year stint, which happened to be Liverpool with regards to the league, like to put your mind and want to go back and forth like that and say they have no relevance, I find it funny. I find it kind of lazy with regards to the back and forth. But it's the rivalry, it's the tribalism. So I'm cool with it. I've accepted it. But 20 years, 30 years does not determine whether a club have history or heritage or relevance, in my opinion.
I totally agree. Just the final point from Kev is just to say they speaking of Man City, they have done an impeccable job as long as they did it the right way. In brackets, which as a United fan, I hope you're guilty. Which is goes back.
Of course you would. Of course you would. Of course you would.
So that's totally opposite. I'm going to touch on our owners and get you guys' thoughts before we get into the. I'm already running. I hope I got you guys for just a little bit over an hour. So cool. Right. So
I don't know about Silver Surfers though, because he's a popular man. He might have to go.
You are.
No. I made sure that I talked to my people. I made sure they cleared this the rest of the evening. I'm good.
Thank you, sir.
Mondays are clear.
People like that.
So I don't know how much you might not be aware. Obviously, at the beginning, Amanda Stavely and Meda Gadusi have, as of the last couple of weeks, have sold their shares, and they have left the club as owners. They were part of the, obviously Amanda and Meda were the chief brokers in bringing PIF, the Public Investment Fund, and the Reuben brothers into Newcastle United, and they've eventually, obviously in this transfer window, they've sold their shares and they've moved on. They've done an impeccable job bringing PIF to our club. We were absolutely out on our knees before they came. We had players using wheelie bins as rehydration pools. That's where Newcastle were, and that is no joke. It's on
Wow.
camera. So I know pain is different for every fan. It's subjective. when they say their club is in the trenches, I'm like, nah.
Right.
Try relegation twice in 10
Yeah.
years. That's painful. And there's 4 years in that, because there's a year you're going down and there's a year you're trying to get back up.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, they brought us back out of it. So nothing but gratitude to them. She's excellent brokers. They brought the club together. But speaking of influence, speaking of leadership, even Amanda said in her goodbye message, is like to say, look, I haven't got the footballing expertise. I don't know how to necessarily, run, and I'm paraphrasing here, a club in terms of a sports director role. Hence, you get a Paul Mitchell, which Andrew spoke of in regards to his expertise. Paul Mitchell.
And that's an upgrade on Dan Ashworth for me. That's an upgrade.
Yes, absolutely. And people, I'm sure you guys know, but every sporting director has different set of skills and expertise. Dan Ashworth himself has said that he thinks himself as a spoke in between the wheel, the spoke in between the wheels that brings organizations together. So, i.e., the academy will play the same football as the first team, and when he was in Brighton, he managed to put together what they got on data together with their recruitment, and then player recruitment started happening that way. But he's not the guy that does the scouting. Right. He's not the guy that says, "Oh, this guy, he's got an excellent strike of the ball. He'll be good at this or that." He doesn't do that. Paul Mitchell does, though. Paul Mitchell not only was a former scout who came from Wimbledon, worked his way up, Southampton, Monaco, and the players that Tottenham. Exactly. He's the guy that brought you Dele Alli, Ericsson, all those guys there. So he's a real kind of overseas as well as domestic expertise with him, and it brings that to our club. And it looks like Guehi may well be his first signing here, but in terms of just even looking higher up, in terms of Al Ramayan, who's our chairman and obviously represents Piff and the Reuben brothers. Look, they've in the Newcastle have been owned by them for about 2.5 years now. We've gone from scrapping for relegation to going to the Champions League, and now trying to compete for a Champions League spot in this year as well. It's been a tremendous uplift from where we've gone to. And so from you gentlemen's perspective, kind of from the outside looking at Newcastle and our progression, what's kind of your overriding thoughts when you guys think of Newcastle at the moment?
So I think you're fortunate that Saudi bought you, but you're unfortunate in the timing they bought you at this current state, the way finances are. I feel like when you buy Guehi, it might be last summer when you bought Tonali and only had like one big layout in terms of a transfer right now, because you're not really commercially sound in terms of, deals you're striking or, stuff like, you're not, like you say, you're not winning on the pitch at the moment. You're in the Champions League, no problem, but you went sort of backwards. Maybe that's because you didn't really have the squad to cope with, or, in terms of everything. It's really hard to determine what can be done. Like, I don't know if you can do like the one big transfer per summer. You know what I mean? You might need to start doing like little transfers and build up and get your team. Once your team's regularly in like European football, whether it's Europa League or Champions League, then things start to change a bit. Like you say, you're gonna probably have to do what we're doing. You're gonna have to start using your scouts to sign who you think are gems. Do you know what I mean? And then look at City sales the past few years. It's just been generally academy players, because they're just linked with City, even if you haven't seen them. Yeah, they get like a 30 million price tag put on them, and then the style is true. How many players like you look at the list and go, who? and then they sold him for like 20 million or 25 million or something.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, last season it didn't really play out that way. But in terms of winning,
but it's like last couple of years, it's been like 425 million pounds in incomings, and that's why that's what.
And we had stars.
And
there were a lot of stars in the academy winning that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That they're doing well. That academy's winning, which also helps. But they weren't like a couple approaching maybe in some cup games for City, but they weren't like impressing on Pep Guardiola. Back to Newcastle, I mean, I think it has to be really strategic. That's why Paul Mitchell, I think, is very good in terms that obviously he's got a lot of experience in France, particularly, with Monaco, and able to pick off maybe a few gems that way. He's got links, probably got better links than Dan Ashworth in that side of the market, of agents and stuff like that. So you might see, a few little gems that will pop up that no one knew about, that you'll get there first for like a 10, 15 million or something like that. That's what it's going to have to be like. And you're going to have to, the problem you're going to have is that you need European football.
Yeah.
You need, because otherwise guys like Isak are only going to be like, yeah, that's great, but I want to be playing in the big competitions. You know what I mean? Newcastle's been great for me, but I want to be playing in a big competition. You can only hold on to that player for so long.
Exactly.
Because if you think about it, I don't know how long he's got left in his contract. I think he's been here 2 years now, right? So he must have signed a 5-year deal or something like that. So
yeah.
But you can start seeing players actually winding down their contracts and leaving them free. Do you know what I mean? Like they do in the US. Like if you're not living up to their expectations and they're not going to sign new deals, it puts you in a horrible position where you're going to have to sell them for not the right price that you want.
Yeah.
But that's where do you then? Is it for you? Is this Eddie Howe's last season? Not that you want him to go, but it's like he has to get at least Europa League football, whether it's for a cup or whether it's through league. He has to get Europa League football at least. That's the minimum.
For me, I mean, I think, and I'll get Vator's view on this before kind of we're moving on, is like just to say, I back Eddie Howe a lot. However, I do think that, so for me at the moment, I don't know what his ceiling is. I don't know. He knows what his ceiling is. And for instance, Paul Mitchell coming in, and there's been a little bit of friction in terms of Eddie Howe's he hasn't got the power that he had once had.
Sorry to interrupt you, but that was the man, but Eddie Howe's a Amanda Stabley's guy as well, isn't he?
Yes.
Like, do you know what I mean? Now she's gone and the other guy's gone. There's like no buffer there. Do you know what I mean? There's no protection there. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like,
exactly. That's exactly it. And I think any manager, and you guys will know about this because you've had elite managers at your club. For me personally, any good manager to become great has to learn to adapt. He has to not just adapt in his own training and tactics and everything else, but also to what's happening above him in terms of the owners above them as well. So I'm going to learn a lot about Eddie Howe in this, because this isn't Bournemouth anymore. You're no longer the director, scout, manager, everything. This is Newcastle, and you've got owners that can buy countries, and you've got Paul Mitchell as your director, and you're going to have various things to do. Your responsibilities and your influence are going to be changed into that. I mean, Vator, what's your perspective on Newcastle at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, with what Surfer said earlier, I have to agree with the hype and the happiness that many of you Newcastle United fans had.
United's fine.
Yeah. Fair enough. Was
big up Flawless.
Yeah, was large up Flawless. Was right, man, because you got, and again, like Ashley, I mean, with what he did for several years in terms of not really doing anything to propel you, was kind of just be in existence, right? The dramatics that it meant for new ownership that we're going to be like, again, very, very excited for a new change, for a new age for the club. It was all kind of like you had to put the brakes on, right? You had to put the brakes on because a large part of the league and how they want to move things. And the Red Cartel, hate to hear this, but they didn't want clubs to just have new ownership and to be threats to take away trophies and to take away titles like that. So with FFP, with sustainability that they all put out there, yeah, it makes sense if the ownership cannot back it. And you have ownerships that can back the investment that they wanted. And then again, I'm going to throw in Manchester City here, but with regards to us suing the league and trying to say, listen, how you're questioning these associated party transactions, that needs to kind of relax a little bit. You're kind of putting the wrong, you're painting everybody with the same brush just because of certain deals that come out of a particular region. And I think that's kind of hindered you. When Surfer was talking about Champions League, I kind of put it this way. You guys getting back into Champions League and what that would mean for any aspiring sponsors to want to be associated with a resurgence of Newcastle, right?
Yeah.
To want to, have a brand associated with maybe like a rebirth. Like you can't put a price on that sometimes. You can't put a price on some of that, some of those memories and energy that happens with the fan base or happens with association to the club. So I think it's just it's such a tough time with all of the rules that have been put in place. But I said this earlier, the way you guys have been very systematic and understand, quote unquote, the limitations right now, but you're not going to do anything too harsh. The future for Newcastle is huge. What needs to happen on the pitch? Yeah. Champions League, again, last season, not having it this season, just means you just need to continue to build on it. Because when you look at the landscape and you look at a Spurs or Aston Villa, like the fight can happen.
Brighton.
Exactly. The fight can happen really quick in terms of being consistently in that mix. And obviously Champions League is where everyone wants to get because of the payouts, but the being in that mix to compete for it is going to be very fruitful in my opinion. And I think that's also better for the league because you got to look over your shoulder for many clubs now. There's no quote unquote, oh, it's expected for these clubs to be top four. So the ownership has brought that to you guys. I've also seen a lot of patience with regards to Newcastle fans. I've seen a little turnaround with some Newcastle fans being like, you know what, Manchester City and what you guys had to do, you know what, we're not mad at what you guys had to deal with or had to fight through. Same thing goes for Chelsea first in the mix because of how they got and we're ready. Like, we want to compete now. We don't tell us 15, 20 years from now. And we want to compete now. So Newcastle have to do it differently, but it's all positive with regards to like going with the right flow. Whether Eddie Howe is that right guy though, I would agree. It's kind of like, if they lose Gordon this summer and don't replace him, then I don't hold up much hope in terms of them challenging for like they'll be mid-table. They'll be mid-table. Yeah, we're going to talk about transfers, but even Isak is kind of rumored, or there's a lot of clubs sniffing around.
Right.
If you happen, it's funny. If you happen to lose quality with regards to the squad, how do you still hold the manager to the same report card in terms of you need to deliver when he's losing some of his talent? But it's a tough mix, but I think again that vision with regards to ownership, I think a lot of Newcastle fans can be like, yeah, the future's still bright. It's not going to be. We're not going to. You guys aren't going to shrink away, in my opinion.
I think what they should do is they should also really go hard in the cups.
Absolutely.
They're not in Europe. So they're basically playing once a week for the first half of the season until FA Cup starts. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you should definitely go. There's no excuse for you guys not to go hard unless you have a crippling injury crisis or something like that. But there's no real excuse for you not to go hard in the cups.
Yeah, I agree. Well, speaking of quality and not losing quality, let me bring up Chelsea's. This is for the folks that are listening in. Again, thank you for sticking with us. Big up to all the guys that are here. Flawless, Register Kev, Mighty.
Don't big up Flawless.
He's missing you already. He's like, oh, he's here, but thank you, Flawless, for letting us Borrow. I don't know if we can say Borrow. Have Andrew here on the show as well. So I'm going to go through the strengths and weaknesses of both our teams, of all of our teams, and let's see, Chelsea. So, and kind of get and I know it's early to give predictions, as it stands, and I will go back to for the folks that are. Is this new? Is this?
You got City on screen right now.
Is it City? Well,
Yeah.
you know what? As soon as I got City, let me put City on. How about that? So this is one we made earlier. And apologies for advertising boards, we can't get them off. Just for the folks that can't see, below Erling Haaland is Julian Alvarez, who will touch on that, and I was just speaking over. But as I said to Vator earlier, and when I was putting this up, and thank you for bringing me the list. Wherever I look on the Man City squad is quality, and there's guys I couldn't put Oscar Bob on here, who'd probably be on your right side, and there was murmurings or there was some rumors of him potentially going to Newcastle in a swap deal for Bruno Guimaraes and others. We'll touch on that as well. I mean, question for you, Vator, have Man City reached recruitment nirvana? And what I mean is that do you actually need to recruit anybody? And actually, in fact, your best recruitment is probably internal from your own academy.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on your squad and going forward into the season? Can you do the 5P?
Listen, that's the question that needs to be answered, and that's the question that every City fan wants to kind of be confident to say yes to. But if we don't lose anyone, because I mean, we already did some business early in the transfer window, and it was already said kind of even before the transfer window opened up. But Savio, we were able to get over from Girona, with him being over there and having a good season. So we got that forward, that versatile forward that could play left or right.
Yeah,
but there's always been, last season in particular, where, and I'm gonna this is gonna sound crazy, right? I'm gonna sound like a spoiled brat that has everything, the rich boy that's
first world problems.
Yeah, first world problems. But when you also look at being greedy and wanting to win more than just the league, but also Champions League, you kind of look at the squad and you're like, where am I vulnerable? And we did the absolute, never imagine, I'm gonna be real with you, never imagine trouble. There was not a moment until like the season progressed and we got to that point that I actually thought of the trouble. And
Right.
when you lose the quality in that season with a Gundogan, when you lose the quality of a Mahrez in that season, and then obviously you try to still have the talent you have to go and pursue it again, but you fall short, you're like, okay, well, we do need something. Because we won the trouble with Gundogan and Mahrez, those two, and Laporte, those three players have left. We acquired a Gavardiol, we acquired a Doku, but we didn't get someone in that midfield. Kovacic, Nunez, we didn't get the quality of a Gundogan. So falling short on not winning the FA last year. I mean, United were able to.
You guys did us dirty there.
I'm so
could be in Europe if you just.
I'm still upset with that. But United win the FA and us falling short in pens to Real Madrid and Champions League. That's when we were like, okay, we City fans are like, we do need some quality if we're going to try to do it, right? So. Yes. Looking at what you have on screen, I'm not mad with those players that I see there. There's really nothing that I'm like, do we need more to be able to win the league? As we look at Arsenal and what they're trying to strengthen, they improve at left back. It looks like they're trying to get someone in the midfield to also improve. I don't know what they're going to do at striker, but as they strengthen, do we, as City fans, look at our squad and be like, are we falling short? No. But I went last season with Haaland being out for 2 months. I went last season with KDB being out for almost 5 months.
Right.
I don't think we win the league again with any substantial injury like that and exits because of Arsenal strengthening. So there's rumored right now Julian Alvarez, Atletico Madrid want him, and again the price tag is rumored around 90 mil overall. I think
Is
70.
that euros or pounds?
I think it might be euros, but
Okay.
but if we think 70 and add-ons at 20, something around that range, I think that's what's been coming out. If I lose an Alvarez, yeah, I'm going to be concerned. And I don't know if it's going to be Surfer. Maybe not on this channel today. Surfer's probably not going to say this, but I could see him talking to another City fan, being like, "Shut up, you City fan. You can do whatever you want. Pep's won this with a false 9 before, but I'm gonna say this: yeah, we've won the league before with the false 9. But
my only other gripe with City fans is that they still try and do the old, I don't know if we're going to beat this team, and so it's like big up to Professor Hamza, but when I hear him like he's worried in an FA Cup tie at home to Huddersfield, then I get really napped off. You know what I mean? It's like I get like, come on. I mean, it's like he's still you're the big bad dog. Do you know what I mean? Just embrace it. That's why that's my advice to Toon fans as well. Because if you start winning with your owners, all this goodwill that people like you soon turns. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
no one this country does not like success. They always like losers in this country. They like runners up. Have you ever noticed that? Oh yeah, but whenever someone wins, they go, yeah, but didn't the other guy do well? It's like, well, no, he lost. You know what I mean? It's like it's just like that. It's like Arsenal got more praise for finishing second the last 2 years than City did for finishing first. You know, that's the problem. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's just meant in the US. That would be like, no, you're the first. You're the first loser. You're the first loser. That's what you are. Yeah.
Even with that, Andrew, and I know what Vator thinks about this. The constant criticism I hear from Man City is, they just pass the ball side to side. I think it's a little bit more than that.
It's way more than that. It's way more than that.
We got that. We got that. I know under Mourinho we were slightly. Well, but I know we're more defensive, but we got that as well. Even when we were playing well. Oh, it's just boring. It's just boring. It's like, well, it's not boring to us. Don't watch. Don't watch if it's boring. Do you know what I mean? It's not. We're haters. I'm a City fan. I'm going. Hey, I've won 5. It's not really. It's really boring winning 5 out of 6 titles and a treble. It's really boring. Really boring. Yeah.
Haters by nature are going to hate, but the thing when I look at the squad overall, if it is a chance to 5-peat, if Alvarez happens to leave, and again, like I said earlier, there was no replacement for Gundogan, but I'm actually more so thinking about Rodri.
Yes,
that's where the nervousness is. No one's predicting injuries. No one does that, but we do think, okay, in the event of, or in case with Rodri, 2 seasons down the road, he said, listen. The when we won the treble, he said, I can't do another season like that. I can't play as many games. I can play as many minutes. I can't do that. Now, we asked him to do something very similar last year, but last year he actually started the season a few minor games he missed, and then he missed a few games because of suspension with regards to too many yellows. We look different without him. We're not the same, and we're very vulnerable. If we happen to lose him against the bigger teams in those moments, we're kind of screwed. So when I look at this squad overall, I'm calm with no exits. If there are exits, then there's concerns with regards to Champions League. Then there's concerns with regards to the congestion within the season. And when I say that is, let's say no Alvarez, no backup to Rodri. Everything's calm. What Surfer was saying, when we're playing the early stages within some of these cup runs, everything should be calm until it's a game every 3 days.
Yeah.
So before we move on, I've got this question for you, Vator. The deal that I heard being made, and we don't have to replace like for likes, just because if you were to lose Julian Alvarez, doesn't necessarily mean you have to get another striker. So the deal that I heard was the possibility of between Newcastle and Man City was that Man City, obviously, I don't really want to put 100 million up for Bruno. So they offered someone in the region of 60 million plus Oscar Bob and Steve McAtee. What do you think of that deal?
That's pricey, man. And it's pricey because obviously you get 2 plus cash, we get 1 player. And I also understand the importance of what Bruno is to you guys. Right? So I get
He's our
that.
Rodri. He's our Rodri.
Yeah, I get that, and so you can't continue to lose the quality. And we saw something similar to that with regards to Aston Villa when they're like, you want to take Grealish. It's going to cost you because of how important he is. So I think it's steep. I don't think Manchester City would actually sign off on that deal.
What about Oscar Bob and 60 million?
Oscar Bob. You know what? I think they still turn it down. I think they still turn it down, and it's not so much because Oscar is going to be like a world beater or crazy like that, but I think he does play a role, and I think they probably think that they can get someone that could be proficient enough to cover for Rodri.
Okay,
not at that price tag. Not, you know what I mean? It's not that Bruno doesn't. That price tag doesn't make sense for you guys, but it's also, you know, City are probably like, we can get something that'll be a little more adequate at a different price tag without losing Oscar Bob for this.
I did hear you linked again to Danny Olmo tonight. So
yeah, that's another link too. But again, that doesn't cover. That's different. That's different coverage.
Yeah, I think that's just if Alvarez goes. I think that's just coming and replace Alvarez.
You've heard it here, folks. I've tried to twist Vator's arm and Khaldoon's arm, but we couldn't get it over the line. But like, again, exceptional squad, and you've got some really nice problems, should I say?
Yeah. I'll admit that. I mean,
go on.
No, I mean, quality across the board, but again, vulnerability would be, we lose Alvarez. Vulnerability would be there's no backup for Rodri, and everywhere else, I think we're actually pretty calm. We're pretty calm this year. Excellent.
Well, that's Man City. Well, we've got Chelsea before me. Again, thank you for sending these over to me, Witness Surfer. And again, whenever I'm putting these together, I get a better sense of the squad. Yes, I hear people talking about their squads and all these names, but it's not until you actually have to put these names together and put the depth and then you kind of get a better.
This is a total guess. I don't know whether he's going to go with this. This is just a total guess. So, I know he likes to invert. I know he likes to invert and stuff.
Like, on transferwindow.com, you've got 41 players. I think on your official website, you've got 45 players. So
18 of those are goalkeepers. So
Surfer, I'm guessing too, because I had to pick between Foden, Kovacic, Grealish, Doku, Savio. Like, it's all guesswork right now. Oh, boo!
I'm just glad I didn't have that much of a choice on the wide because I've got Mudryk and that. So
you mentioned to me before the program that a striker and a left winger is imperative for Chelsea. I think obviously Julian Alvarez, Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
Who else was it Chelsea were linked to? Obviously, Victor Osimhen and others.
So it's the Samu kid from Atletico Madrid themselves.
Samu. So, I don't know who he is, and I'm sorry.
I don't know either. But it's not going to be like 50 million like they wanted. It's going to be like 30, 35. So in this day and market, that's basically old school change of like 15 or something like that before Neymar and Barcelona ruined the transfer market. So it's just one of those. And Osimhen, you can't put anyone in there that's not there. So I can't go, Osimhen's there. I know it's going to change, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was literally going to say to you when I was putting this together, my first thought was this is like a young super team, and then the second thought was a shame about the leadership and the lack of chemistry, and that they've gone from Poch to Enzo, and had you kept Enzo, and some of these guys don't know each other, and some of these guys might be thinking, well, I'm not going to see you the next 6 months, and the lack of chemistry and stuff like that. But what's your thoughts? You're looking at your team now as it currently stands. You said you need another striker, a left winger.
Yeah.
How do you think Chelsea move forward and into the season?
Well, if they follow through with the news tonight, that's 2 strikers in. I immediately think that they might try and move Jackson out wider. You know what I mean? Like, not like an actual winger, but just an inside forward. He seems to be
Villarreal, was he left wing forward at Villarreal or right wing forward?
He did play out wide on a few occasions, so he has got, and he likes to drift. He's not like a natural. He's not a natural striker. For me, he overperformed last season, but he's not clinical. Do you know what I mean? Like Vator testified to that in the semi-final of the FA Cup. He's just not clinical. If we had an actual clinical striker, then we probably would have won that game. So it's just like he's there at the moment. We've got like Lavia and Cuckoo coming back and James. So that's the old saying, and that's like 3 new signings. Like even though they're there, I don't know how. I'm just guessing because I don't know how the manager's going to want to do it. He seems to people. Tommy likes to invert. If that's the case, then Cucurella's the only one who can do the invert job properly. There's no point in inverting Reece James because you're going to take one of your greatest weapons away. Yeah. If he keeps fit, do you know what I mean? Yeah. For me, he's an all-round better player than Trent. He's just not fit. Yeah. That's the major thing about him. He can do both sides of the game, but he's just never fit enough. And ironically, he's missing the first 3 or 4 games in the league anyway. He's got sent off against Brighton, so he's not even going to play. So Gusto's going to play there. I don't know what we're going to do with number 8. I won't refer to him by his first name because he doesn't deserve it. So number 8, I don't really care. He's bought his own guy in KDH. So he played him. He usually plays him off the left. Caicedo's there, Lavia's there, and then I mean, you just whatever Palmer wants to do, Palmer can do. Do you know what I mean? If he wants to stay on the right, if he wants to drift in, just. So I just don't. I mean, it's just all a guesswork, right? So if I'm guessing, then maybe other managers are guessing about what to do. Do you know what I mean? It's like because against City the other day, it was weird. We played Mudryk on the right and KDH on the left, and then Kuka up top by himself and Gusto at left back. So it was like, and that's fine because you're experimenting in pre-season. I just don't want to see that in a couple of weeks' time. You know, that would really freak me out. You know, I hope Lavia's looked good this preseason. Hopefully, he can stay fit. He looks excellent. Caicedo had a good second half or last third of the season. Cucurella, I'm glad for his redemption story. Hopefully, that means that Chilwell's going soon because Cucurella, he's had a good second half of the season. He had a brilliant Euros. The centre back partnership's interesting. I think Colwell has to really decide what player he wants to be. Do you know what I mean? He's got a lot of PR and reputation around the Chelsea fan base, but I don't know if he's going to live up to that. The goalkeeper, I've put Sanchez in there because I've not really seen much of Jorgensen, and that's a problem for me. Yeah, I know now everyone looks at a goalkeeper and asset not even saving. It's just whether he's good with his feet first. That really annoys me. I would, if that's the case, then I would have gone all out for like someone like a Diogo Costa or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And just really, on here, you guys, 24, stay fit, and that's your position for like 10 or 12 years. Do you know what I mean? That's what I would have done, but they haven't done that. But yeah, it's just question marks because this might totally change. Well, it will change by the time we play Man City because like Reece James won't be there. Who knows what striker we sign? If Osman's there. I mean, Osman's not even. I don't think Osman's played any games pre-season, so I don't even know how fit he is. I mean, Palmer's not on the tour, so he's back at the Novus Cucurella, stuff like that. So it's just a guess at this moment in time. I mean, Cuckoo's had a good pre-season. We've got a game against Real Madrid Wednesday. All I'm interested in pre-season is seeing something and no injuries. That's all I'm interested in. Come back, play Inter Milan, and then kick on from there. But I think we're gonna see different, maybe not different formations, but just different players until he finds a core, till he finds that 6 or 7 that are constantly going to play. Maybe even like 8. Do you know what I mean? That are going to play, and he just.
I hate to interrupt you, but this sounds like the same. Exactly what you were saying about what Enzo's at is where Pochettino was at last summer. You know, he needs to find that formula. The problem with Poch is he went completely against what he did in preseason. In the preseason,
he came in like playing well, and then against Liverpool, he stuck Ben Chilwell at left wing. Yeah. and play Cole at left back. Like, it's like what? what are we doing? And you know, that's what I'm saying. It's like I won't be Maresca out because I don't know what to expect from Maresca. Like Poch had a background; he had this sort of a CV, but people knew about him. But
right,
I'm also just interested to see if we can. If I'm interested this season, if my theory is correct that Poch caused a percentage of the injuries last year of his training methods, or if it's actual problem at Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? I'm interested to see that. Like so far, fingers crossed, it's been okay. Like we haven't had any serious stuff, especially with some of the pitches over there. Sometimes you'll just land awkwardly or something like that. But we've escaped that. So yeah, it's just unfortunately it's just a question mark. Even now, because we're linked to two strikers, I don't know what's going. I don't know if they're going to go in, who's going to play. So it's like this is the problem. That's what I said earlier at the start of the thing. It's like everyone seems to think the transfer window started today or something like that, and everyone's like. No one can predict. Probably City are probably the closest that can predict, and maybe Arsenal predict their like first 11s going into the season. Do you know what I mean? It's like you don't even know. But you know, it's just you'll probably hear that a lot this season from me going like just question marks essentially.
Yeah. Exactly. I'll read out one more comment, and I've got a question to Vator about Chelsea before we move on to Newcastle. And so this is one from Leighton. I feel Europa would be a good enough for this for Newcastle. I feel Europa would be good enough for Howe to stay, but not for Bruno. And we would risk Isak being tested again in the summer. All very, very true. The pressure is definitely on Newcastle. Vator, obviously Chelsea first game of the season. As you look at the squad now, are you licking your lips?
As I look at the squad, the reason why I'm glad I'm playing them early is because their manager doesn't have that much time to really figure it all out. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that we get to play Chelsea early. The squad, it's kind of like you don't know what you're gonna get because they are talented. That's the thing. They are. There's talent all over that pitch, but it's just whether the instructions are there, whether they're set up well with what we want to do against them. But I'm glad it's week 1 versus like week 5 or week 10 in the league, because I think Chelsea will be more problematic this year than they were obviously the last 2 years. And if I might be wrong, but I think 2024 since Jan, Chelsea's record was actually pretty strong.
It was.
It was on points. Yeah, it was points wise. It was
fourth best in the country, right? Fourth in form.
Yeah, something like that. We would if it started in January, we'd be comfortably top 4 or something like that.
Yeah,
you're right. It's right though. I feel the same a bit like City though, because apart from last year where they started off really strong, City don't usually they don't go full tilt at the start of the season.
No, this is what's crazy. So Pep knows because of the length of the season, because of all the the games.
And both of us remember got Club World Cup next summer as well in
exactly
July.
In July. So because there's so many games that are in the mix, Pep actually doesn't really treat the off season or these preseason games very seriously. Like we actually play our way into form.
So
the Community Shield is one of those build into form type games. So I'm really glad we're playing Chelsea early. And it's because because of Chelsea, and I don't think they're going to be in their group just yet. And 2, because City are going to be figuring it out. And I think we might just be that much better as the season kicks off. But yeah, man, I'm actually calm with this one. Surfer, let me get that win week 1, and you go and.
I said I wanted you away first day of the season. Someone asked me I said get it out of the way. Get it out of the way. Get it out of the way. That's what I'm sorry. That's what you should want City as the way. Apart from last season, like I said, the usual it goes. You should want City early in the start, early at the part of the season, because they'll still pick up a lot of points, but it won't be like a title run in City. Do you know what I mean? Usually, they just steamroll you from like December onwards and stuff like that. You're usually able to pick up. I think they usually like lose a couple or even drop a couple of draws or something. It was only last season when they won the first 6 and everyone went, oh crap. Are they going to go like? Are they going to like? Oh no! Are they going to like break all these records and go undefeated or something like that? But that's when Roger got his red card.
Roger got injured. Yeah,
Roger got his red card, and then they just lost.
What I don't like is that, and again, I think this is going to be some of the bulletin board material that Pep's going to have is within the league play. Though we haven't beaten Chelsea, right? Last season it was 2 draws within the league. We only beat you in the cup run, right? So hopefully that's the motivation. Players are going to be ready, and let's just
All right. Well, fantastic. Final look, and that is Newcastle United. Obviously, news of I haven't included Guehi. I want to see it until he's holding up the scarf. I'm not going to include him into the squad. Sorry, folks, for those that can't see it. Keeps us kind of the end. But at this rate, our right wing forward, we've got Almiron and Jacob Murphy, and obviously that right wing position is priority position for us. Amongst the various candidates that have been looking for replacement, I've heard today, obviously, from some of us, our Newcastle content, big up the Loaded Mag, big up Sean Casey. We're speaking of Kulusevski being a potential target for Newcastle in that right wing forward spot. Oh. Obviously, sorry, go on.
No, I just said I didn't hear that.
Yeah, no, this is like within the Newcastle. Like the depths of the Newcastle forest. You have to hear that.
I hear it.
So that's coming up. Interestingly, for Winter Surfer, I'll ask him on this. Noni Madueke has also come up, and he was in the more known source that is obviously the Telegraph as a potential recruit for the right wing forward position. This fan base is split on that. Some hate the idea. Others are a bit more objective about it. Obviously, we've got Isak and Callum Wilson. And we've got a new young forward in the name of Olusola from Sheffield United coming across to us. Obviously, our left wing forward position is a lot more stronger with Gordon and Harvey Barnes, Joe Linton and Willock on our left midfield, Bruno Gomes, and the young Lewis Miley. Tonali literally feels like a new player because he is a new player. Goodness gracious me, I'm looking forward to seeing him. And obviously Longstaff, Hall, and we've got literally a growing Chelsea back line here in Lewis Hall, Livramento, and soon to be Mark Guehi. Trippier might get sold, but he's still there, obviously. And Nick Pope as our goalkeeper. From you guys' perspective, and we've touched on it in some places. I'll go to you, Andrew, first in terms of. And I'll touch on our right wing forward position. And first, Noni Madueke. What's your thoughts on him? Would you sell him? Would he be of benefit to Newcastle? Would you keep him and see where he's at? I looked at Squawka and I noticed that he played just over 1,000 minutes for Chelsea last season. 20 games, 13 starts. The majority of those games he either was substituted off or was substituted on. He scored about 8 goals and 3 assists. So if you look at it per game, he's been relatively productive, but kind of really stuttering in terms of appearances.
Yeah.
What's your view on him?
So he's like a young player, really frustrates you a lot of the time. He's a good dribbler with the ball. But his final ball and decision making needs to be better. I think he would have had a better chance of signing him if we'd signed Lise. Because I think that would have given us well, we've got Elise, we can play Palmer on the right and stuff like that. We've got enough to cover there. Unless we are going to sign another right winger or something like that, I don't think we're going to sell him this season. It looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's frustrated. He's got the talent. He's got it there. He's just like with all young players. It just comes with age, hopefully. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I would take 100 Maduekes over one Mudryk every time. So, but you know what I mean? That's just. I don't know why we just don't stick him on the left. He's left-footed to begin with, all this like other thing. But no, at the moment he's a very good option to start her off the bench. I think we're going to keep him, like I said, because I don't think we're going to sign another winger. I know we were linked to Oscar Bob as well, so and we keep getting linked to James McAtee as well for some reason, but it's okay. But no, I mean, I think he would be good for you, but I think you would get frustrated a lot.
Okay.
He's got a good shot on him. I mean, even his right foot's a good shot. I remember he scored a banger against Luton away, like top corner with his right foot. He's predominantly left-footed, but
People just to,
he could get you a lot of penalties as well. So,
to help. What the fans are expecting is for us to get a Mark Guehi type of signing in the right wing forward position, which, from what I'm getting from you, is Noni is not that guy.
Noni's not yet that guy. I don't know if he will be, but at the moment he's not that guy. And like I said to you earlier, for you to get that type of player, that would mean for me that you're going to have to spend another 60 to 70 million. And I don't know if you're going to do that in 2 signings.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? I think you should have gone for someone like, I know he plays on the left, but someone like Somerville from Leeds.
Okay.
You should have gone with someone like that. West Ham have picked him up for about 30 million, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
I would have gone with someone like that. He's electric. I know he plays on the left or something like that, but maybe he could switch to the right. I would have looked in that market, or, and just gone that way. Kulusevski, for me, I know a lot of Spurs fans, and he flatters to deceive quite a lot. Kulusevski, there is, for what he shows, he should be doing more. Like his output's quite low. In terms of both assists and goals. And I would listen. Maybe there's just the team and the environment doesn't fit. Do you know what I mean? We've seen it before, or sometimes even the league doesn't fit. We've seen it before that someone do rubbish here, but well somewhere else or in another team or something like that. Right wingers are like in all markets. Right wingers. I'm trying to think of it. The top of my head, a lot of right wingers. I'm not getting a lot coming in. Do you know what I mean? It's all ones that stand out to me.
Or good ones. I mean, like I said, we've been linked to Rafinha from Barcelona, but there's a lot of teams that are linked to him. His wages are crazy. I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean that would be another 65 million pound signing.
Exactly.
Like I said, I just don't know whether you're going to do that or not for a second time in the window. Do you know what I mean? It's like with what your finances are and stuff. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I can't think. I'm just getting a load of left wingers. You know what I mean? It's like I'm just.
I mean, Rafinha. We're looking at Rafinha, Morgan Gibbs-White, Noni Madueke.
He plays a 10 though, doesn't he? Morgan Gibbs-White plays a 10.
He does. He plays across the midfield. Then he's
he's not going to stay wide.
He's not going to stay wide.
It's like he wants to drift. Where if he does start wide, he'll drift in or something like that. So it's just what it's picking up. I mean, I would have gone like say Diaby Villa, who's just gone to Saudi, but another 60 million pound player. You know what I mean? It's like whoever you think of, it's pricey at this moment in time.
I think how I might go for and I'll end it on this is for a kind of a Kulusevski type profile. Is if you look across our kind of forward from Gordon, Barnes, Isak, they're all 6 foot something. Athletic, absolute pace, good on the ball, good at tracking back, real ambition. I don't know why Kulu's lost that. I don't know what's happened with at Tottenham, but if there's one good thing that Eddie Howe has about him is to be able to coach players. You've seen what happened to Joe Linton, who was quickly looking at the worst transfer signing in the history of the Premier League, and now he's an absolute beast. Even Anthony Gordon, the highest goal contribution he had before he came to Newcastle was at Everton, which was 6, and the very next year or next year 18 months has turned into a 20+ goal contribution at Newcastle. So
he should have gone for. He's just signed for Palace. Ismail Assar.
Yeah, I think the only reason they haven't gone for Ismail Assar was around his work rate, because I did think we were going to get him, and they were concerned about his work rate. And this is why, going back to Oscar Bob here, seeing how friendly Man City want to be with us. But we'll see with that. But that's where, for you, Vator, when you look at Newcastle, I'll end it with you before we close off the show, is what's your, when you look at Newcastle, what would you kind of look at as the key kind of strength and in the squad, and
Yeah, of
what
course.
do you think Newcastle need to kind of press on forward to really try and cement whether it's a Champions League spot in particular?
See, I, many City fans, when we're in like the group chats and we're exchanging back and forth, I'm often the one to be like, "Yo, I really like how Newcastle are set up," and I get the no, why? What is it that you like about them? Honestly, with Eddie Howe and I'm gonna say this: there's quality in terms of technical ability, 100%. You don't look at the success that you had last season and even the season before and not see the technical ability. But I love the physicality. I love, especially in that midfield, that's a no nonsense midfield.
Yeah.
And again, there's moments within the season, within games that obviously with a Joe Linton and even Bruno where there's the point of intimidating or laying one on the players. I love the old school aspect of that because again, you make players have to second guess. You make them wonder about a 50-50 sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think the physicality as well as the pace up front bodes really well with what you've done defensively, even with regards to acquiring Hall. I think that's a plus. It's just depth. And I think depth is the only thing that's really going to hurt you guys. And again, when we were talking about the transfers earlier, if you were to lose a Bruno, but again, like what was rumored, you get an Oscar Bob and you get a McAtee, and then you also have some cash. It's kind of like strengthening again, but I actually having two bodies versus losing one. So I think that's the only thing kind of that needs to be managed really well over there. Yeah. But your 11 is going to cause problems. The physicality is going to cause problems, even with regards to set pieces. I think you guys are going to be dangerous. I didn't look on the calendar to see when we face each other, but when we do, we'll definitely have to link up and do a show.
100%.
Because last season, those games, actually when we played, even with regards to the cup run, it wasn't easy. So I think you guys are going to be a problem for many teams in this league.
All right. Well, thank you for that, guys. Just one more comment to read here from Crawley Eagle. There's always been a brilliant banter and great respect between our clubs. I think it's between Newcastle. He did mention, I always want you to do well. So he did mention Mark Guehi earlier. So as a Palace fan, I don't want to lose Guehi. He's class and he'll be brilliant for you especially. Guys, I want to say thank you to Vator. I want to say thank you to Andrew, also known as Winter Surfer, for my first ever live stream, which I planned to do for an hour. I went 40 minutes over.
Hey, I wouldn't stop talking, man.
Wow.
And
all right, Surfer.
And for the folks that are watching and want to know, this is the first of a 3-part series. As you notice, I spoke about the owners. In the next episodes, I'm going to be speaking about the managers a little bit more, and we'll end it off a lot more with our kind of focusing on certain players in the 3rd-part series as well. But as I said, I want to say a special thank you to Vator and to Andrew for their participation. And I'm going to end it off actually with as things stand, and I am going to go back to you guys at the end of August at this, and I'm going to ask you to predict points. As we go into the season now, what is your predicted points for your teams, and what is your predicted points for Newcastle when we come to the end of the season? How many points do you expect your teams to have? And as things stand today on the 5th of August, how many do you expect Newcastle to have? Vator, I'll go over to you first.
Yikes. To win this league, what's been pretty consistent the last few years is you got to be hovering around the 90 points. And I'd be poor to say that I don't expect Manchester City to win, even as things stand right now. So I'd flirt around like 92, 94 points.
Okay.
To win this league, I think. And then speak on Newcastle. You got. If I'm going off memory, I think to be consistent within top 4, you've got to be within that 70-point range.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's steady year to year. So to battle in top 4, to get back into Champions League, and maybe it's top 4, top 5, that kind of. I'd say you guys maybe get I'm gonna say 72 points.
Okay.
Is that realistic? 72 points?
Well, we finished on 60 points last season. The season before that, we had 71. So,
Ooh. You know what? It's early. Let me leave it at that. I'm gonna leave it at
you
that.
can revise it. You can revise it. You can revise it. Witness Surfer for yourself, Chelsea.
Well, at the moment, I got to finish in 6 again. So anywhere between, I'm going to say 65, 68. But I think we'll be in a, I'm not going to swear, but we'll be in a cluster with you, Man United, Villa, and Spurs trying to get that 4th spot. And I think we might end up taking points of each other, whether it's like 3 points or draws or something like that. And
it's going to be vicious.
It's going to be it's going to be vicious.
Yo, that's going to be entertainment. That's going to be
it's going to entertain. Well, entertain for people not in it. Yeah, it's going to be for us. It's going to be like fingernails to the bone. For you, playing once a week. I'm just not sure about your squad depth. That's all. I'm just not even. With this, I'm going to say 63 points.
Okay.
Only because it's like I said, I think that 4th to 8th or 9th spot is going to be very congested.
The Newcastle fans, kill them in the comments. Notice I said 70 points. I said 70 points.
Well, if I get Osimhen, I might change mine to go higher. That's all. Do you know what I mean? It's like that. So
we'll be coming back to this at the end of August. They'll have an opportunity to revise it. And these predictions are, just to let folks know, I don't ask them to come back and say, you got this wrong. It's more to know, like, okay, why did it work out this way? That kind of thing. So really good to hear. So guys, thank you again. Thank you for your predictions. Thank you for coming on. All the guys in the chats for sending in your questions and everything else. Really appreciate you. Look out for that second episode, which is coming up on Wednesday. And until next time, guys, take care and God bless, folks.